Probably asking yourself, what's with the long face, Chaos? Why do you not look happy? There's a reason. I'm mad. I am livid. Okay? Because I have the pleasure of talking about one of my most hated films of all time. Yeah. I know with my show on YouTube here, I typically try and talk about good movies, to make positive reviews, you know? Not this time. No, you thought, in my Kick-Ass 2 video, you thought I was mad at that? No. That is a far cry from what is happening now. In my Kick-Ass 2 vlog, I was mostly irritated and disappointed at some of the dumber aspects of the movie. And while I can say my opinion on it has still more or less stayed the same since shooting that video, I'll admit I didn't hate the movie. I just was disappointed and irritated at it, mostly. But this movie, I can say I genuinely hate it. And I don't say that about a lot of movies, because I'm genuinely a very pessimistic person. I don't really hate movies, per se. Now, granted, I do have a couple of movies that are on my radar for worst films of all time. This is one of them. This is the worst of the worst. It's probably the worst finale I've ever seen. And for all those people out there that say the Sopranos finale is bad, it was pretty bad. But at least the Sopranos finale wasn't 2.5 fucking hours long. Yes, this movie is 2.5 hours long. Is anything accomplished? Hardly. I guess in the movie's plot, yes, this stuff is accomplished, but does it ultimately lead to anything? No. The only thing I can say that it leads to is me being more pissed off than I was going into this thing. God damn it. Well, no use delaying. Might as well just get on with the movie itself instead of just circling around it. Instead of just backtracking, I might as well just face it and just talk about the movie right away. So, the movie in question that I'm talking about today, in case you haven't seen the title, is Neon Genesis: The End of Evangelion. Now, for any of those out there who don't know what Evangelion is, I'm going to sum it up right now. Evangelion is a short anime series about giant robots fighting monsters. That's really all you need to know. There's a lot more substance to it than that, a lot more religious symbolism and everything like that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Basically, all you need to know about my thoughts on the show is I don't like it. And while I can honestly say that if you'd asked me this a couple years ago, I would have told you I hated it, my opinion on it has softened a bit since then. I mean, I don't like it, but I can't bring myself to say I despise it, because honestly, there are good things about the show that I do like. Some of the character interactions are at least interesting. Some of the earlier fights in the show are actually pretty well done, you know. But this is bad. Like, okay, let me first start off this. The first scene in the movie made me want to shut this thing off. Because the first time seeing it, I was just curious about it mostly. I mean, coming off of the series, I didn't particularly like it. Then I found out that there was a movie, and I was like, well, let me give this thing one last shot. Because I had heard that it was really good. The series, I had heard, was a very pioneering series. I mean, it takes... A lot of people seem to like it, you know? So, there's got to be something good about it, you know? And keep in mind, this was about a year or two before their rebuild films were announced. So, yeah. So I sat down and I just popped the thing in, and after the first scene, I was just... My jaw was just on the floor. I was in utter shock and disbelief at what I was seeing, okay? The first scene of the movie is completely unnecessary. And I'm not talking about the live-action bits, because this movie starts off with a bit of a live-action bit where it's just shots of real people going about their normal days while the characters go on about bullshit that doesn't matter. And then it cuts to animated stuff. It cuts to an animated section where we see my favorite character in a coma in a hospital bed. Asuka Langley Soryu. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the character. I don't blame them. She's pretty bitchy, honestly. But the reason I liked Asuka as opposed to any other character in the show was because Asuka at least had a personality that wasn't just whining, bitching, or just being monotone and stoic. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that if you don't agree with me, you're wrong, because you're not. I know a lot of people who didn't like the character of Asuka, but I do know people who did like the character. And there's a reason for it, because, I mean, again, like I said, it's just the only character with a personality, so I was able to latch on to her easier than some of the other characters. But what happens in this scene is so despicable that I was just, fuck this. After the scene, I was just done. I was just done. I just couldn't handle it anymore. Yet I kept on, I just kept going. Because why? I don't fucking know. So, the first scene, we have Shinji, our main character, the big protagonist, the person who's supposed to... He's our main protagonist, basically. And do I have to be the straw that breaks the camel's back in saying that Shinji's a fucking idiot? He's annoying. He's a little twat, okay, who doesn't listen to anybody, is depressed for most of the series. And I'm sorry, if you can't write a depressed character correctly without doing the same shit over and over again, that's bad writing. The same shit over and over and over again is the only thing that makes this character recognizable. Everything else, just kind of bland. He's your typical teenager. He's, just does whatever typical normal teenagers do, except he is depressed and he is in a bad spot right now. Now, this character on paper could have worked had they actually given him shit to do. Had they given him character development. That's an important word, people. Remember that. Character development. These characters, love them or hate them, do not go through any development. In fact, I think they actually get worse as the series goes on. Because not only do they become more annoying as the series goes on, but it gets worse and worse, okay? You're telling me that Shinji's supposed to be depressed. Okay, fine. I'll buy it. He's supposed to be depressed. What's about him? What is it about him that it makes him so depressed? Well, his daddy doesn't love him. And finally, when he gets called back to pilot a giant robot by his dad, he's naturally pretty, he doesn't want to do it. Which makes sense, He's got his angst makes sense then. Because he's put in a situation that no person should ever have to go through, especially being as young as he is, okay? It makes sense. By the third or fourth time, we have an angel attack, which is essentially just the monsters of the series. The third or fourth time he has to fight an angel, and he still acts like that? Fuck you, series. No. No. I am done with this fucking character. He has done some of the dumbest shit in this series that I just don't even want to go into it right now. But you will. Okay. Even when he starts making friends, even when you think he's getting better, even when he makes friends, even when he has an apartment to live in, even when he has people around him who may not respect him but at least like him, he still acts like that. Going into the series, he didn't have any friends. Nobody really liked him or even knew him. By the time he makes friends, multiple friends, he still acts like that. There is no reason for it. None whatsoever. So in the movie, he still acts like that. He still acts like the annoying fucking little asshole that he is. So what does he do? Asuka is comatose from a fight that happened earlier in the series, okay? That much makes sense. So Shinji's in there visiting her, okay? So what do you think he does? He's kind of sitting there leaned over like this, just kind of whispering to himself, And then he goes over to where Asuka is, and you'd think, out of all the things that you could do right now, one of your friends is in a coma right now, okay? Someone you had maybe sort of romantic issues with, but not really, It didn't really matter in the end. You look at this person, they're in a coma right now. What's the first thing you do? What's the first thing you do? Do you just say, I'm sorry? Do you grieve for whatever it is? Because they may never come out of it, What do you do? Well, I say he had three options here. One, he could have left the room just silent and stoic, and just accepted what it is and just said, this person's in a coma who I do like, and I'm just going to accept that. Two, he could have looked out of the hospital bed and said, I'm sorry, apologize, whatever. Just make himself be more reasonable and understandable. Or he could have picked three and did what he actually did and dropped trout and started fucking jerking off. Yes, I'm being dead serious right now. That's what he does. He fucking jerks off. For no reason. Who acts like this? Who does that? I honestly don't want to meet the person who acts like this. Because if you're sitting in a fucking hospital room and one of your friends is in a coma, Would you just drop trowel and just start fucking yanking the chain? No! Nobody does that. Nobody fucking acts like that. You know why? Because they wrote that fucking scene in there to piss people off. Why else is it the first scene that you see in the movie? There's no reason for it. In fact, I've heard a rumor that on some releases of the movie, they have turned the gamma, which is basically the light, in the scene up so high that you can't even see what's going on. But then that begs the question, if you're going to bother to turn the light up to a point where you can't even see what's going on, what's the point of including the scene at all? It serves no purpose, it has nothing to do with the rest of the film, nothing is accomplished by it, it doesn't establish anything other than Shinji's a fucking asshole. Nothing is accomplished by this scene. And that's the first fucking scene in the movie here, people. We're less than 10 minutes into this thing, and I already want to shut this thing off. How does this happen? I honestly want to know. It only gets worse from here, people. You think, oh, this is as worse as the movie gets. No, it goes way fucking downhill from here. Ugh. God damn it. I apologize if I can't show you any clips of this movie right now because my editing system crashed. And because of YouTube's new bullshit copyright system, I probably wouldn't have been able to show you any clips anyway. But just so you know, the entire movie is on YouTube. So if you dare to watch this movie, go ahead. The whole 2.5 hour movie is on YouTube, okay? But a half hour of this movie could be cut out and you wouldn't miss anything. There comes a point in this movie where it's right before Third Impact is starting, like minutes before it starts. And Third Impact is essentially Armageddon, the apocalypse, you know, for this series. We've had First Impact, which was the first meeting of mankind and the angels, which is essentially just the monsters in the series, and bad shit happened. Over half the world's population was wiped out because of this. Then we have Second Impact, which is a very rumored sort of, it was basically the second meeting, you know, and it was bad as well. But Third Impact is basically the event that all the characters in the series are trying to prevent. So basically Third Impact is the final destruction of mankind where every person on the planet dies. So Third Impact is essentially what we're trying to prevent. The entire series, we've been led to believe that victory after victory, it's a possibility, you know, because we've gotten through so many angels by this point that the idea of mankind winning this war seems more and more like a reality than anything else, you know? Now, granted, I didn't expect this series to end on a happy note, considering that it is a thoroughly depressing series, but I at least expected something more than just the bad guys win, the end. That's what this movie is. That's what this movie equals up to. The bad guys win, the end. Can we stop them? No. Is there any way to even prevent it, nor even save people? No. Is there any reason for this? You guessed it, no. But does it happen? Oh, hell yeah. It happens accordingly because Sele, who is another organization, just like the organization that the main characters work at, which is called Nerve, which makes the Avas, you know, which are just the Jack robots. Well, Sele, for some reason, wants to initiate Third Impact. They want to work with the Angels to initiate Third Impact. Why? Fuck if I know. The movie gives about as much explanation as we're evil. So that's about it. They helped NERV fund the AVA program. They helped them build these giant robots to stop the Angels. Why in God's name do the same people who work with NERV to stop the Angels suddenly say, you know what? I think we can work with the Angels. Let's make Third Impact. You know, let's go ahead and do that. Why? Why was this necessary? I'm genuinely asking this question right now. Why did Sele have to initiate Third Impact? Because it's full of a bunch of pretentious dickheads who think that combining Earth, mankind, and God all together is going to be enlightenment. Maybe. That's about as big as that's honestly the best explanation that I can come up with. But at the same time, it's not an explanation. This fucking movie. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead because the rest of this movie is just watching people die. And I don't want to see that. I don't. Because the thing about it is that I can watch movies where cities are destroyed. I watched Man of Steel and I didn't care. I actually thought Man of Steel was okay. I was sickened by this movie. If I'd gone to see this movie in the movie theater, which is probably wouldn't have come to my town anyway, but if I had, I would have left. I would have left after the first scene. No, not a doubt in my mind. There's not a doubt in my mind. I would have left. Watching the execution scene where Sailor invades Nerve is just disturbing and sickening. And I feel bad for saying that it's disturbing because that's giving this movie credit. But just because you say something's disturbing doesn't mean it's good. It's not like saying this horror movie was scary. Saying something's disturbing isn't on the same level as saying something's scary. It just means you were fucking disturbed by it. That's along the same lines as this movie. Just because I say a scene is disturbing doesn't mean that it's good. And there are quite a few in this movie. But I think that the rest of the disturbing scenes mostly come off as kind of stupid, honestly. The fucked up imagery is nothing I haven't seen before, you know, it's fucked up, but it's like weird and stupid on the level, so you can't really laugh at it, but nor can you take it seriously, you know, it's just kind of there. But the scene where Sailor invades Nerve and kills a bunch of the employees, characters we've grown to know by this point, and it's just fucking ridiculous, man. This whole movie is just one big fuck you to the fans. And I don't care if people try and defend this movie. It was a big fuck you to the fans. Okay? Why else would there be explicit scenes killing off the main cast members? Out of character moments. Okay? Especially. Why are those necessary? Why? To put it bluntly, in less than 5 words. Actually, 5 words. To put it bluntly, in 5 words, this movie can be summed up as everyone dies. The end. That's pretty much it. Everyone died. The end. Well, except for Shinji, of course, because fuck. Well, yeah, out of all the people to stay alive, it had to be Shinji, you know, because the worst of humanity has to stay behind. Well, everyone else is killed. So one last thing I want to talk about before I end this, because I just, fuck me if I want to talk about this movie any longer. It hurts me to talk about this movie, okay? And I'm sorry if this review wasn't up to standards with what I usually do, where I usually try and go into detail about this movie. If you want to see a detailed review of this movie, go watch the Cartoon Heroes review. Okay? That's the first plug I think I have ever given for someone. So there you go, Eli Stone. There's your plug. I think you're a good reviewer. Go watch his review of the end of Evangelion, because he was an actual fan of the series, and even he hated this movie. So even fans of the series can't enjoy this movie. But anyway, to finally get to the last scene in the movie, what the fuck is up with this scene? The last scene in the movie is Shinji and Asuka. Now, Asuka is supposed to be dead. She did die. We've seen her die multiple times in this fucking movie, which is just awesome for me to watch. She dies when her Evangelion unit, her robot, is blown up by one of the angels in a scene that is already bullshit enough that I can't even go into it. She kills all of the angels, all of the other Eva units, because Seele made their own series of robots that were supposed to go after the original set to destroy them, so that there would be no resistance. Well, they find Asuka, and of course she kicks the shit out of them. And in one of the best scenes of the movie, a scene that I actually found myself kind of enjoying, honestly, is when Asuka goes fucking apeshit on these Eva units and just destroys them, rips them in half, you know? Fucking just slaughters these things. I was like, fuck yeah, the whole time, because it's a good scene. What happens right after that? They reactivate. How? Fuck if I know. These things get ripped in half, destroyed, fucking obliterated, and yet they come back. Why? Because we said so. Because the screenwriters needed a way for Asuka to die, so hey, those Eva units that she destroyed, ripped in half, and just tore apart, yeah, they come back. I don't know. I can't explain it. They just come back, and they just fucking kill her. Well, that's awesome. And then right after that, there's a point in this movie where you're inside Shinji's brain as all this is going on. Which could have been an interesting concept, but they had to fuck that up too, because all it results in is the same shit we've already seen. My daddy didn't like me. Everyone hates me. Shut the fuck up, you whiny little twat. But in one of those scenes, we get a scene where Shinji's just standing around in the kitchen, and then Asuka's yelling at him, of course, because he's a fucking asshole. And then what does he do? He chokes her to death. I can't even make a joke about that. He chokes her. And then it cuts away. And then later on in the film, we see Shinji is alive, which doesn't make any sense because he should be dead because he was absorbed by the vacuum of third impact. He should be dead along with everyone else, but for some reason, he isn't. Okay? Now, he cuts himself out of the vacuum of third impact. Sorry about that. And somehow survives, okay? Not a scratch on him. Well, he brings Asuka with him. Somehow. Who's dead? Who's dead? He brings along a corpse with him. Okay? How she isn't ripped apart into pieces right now is anybody's guess, but fuck it, it's a movie. I'm suspension of disbelief. So he's sitting there, being in Shinji's self, just sitting there whining, bitching, and moaning, and the typical bullshit. And then he looks over at Asuka, and he still chokes her again. He looks over at this corpse, and he chokes her again. I'm not joking, people. I wish I could be joking. I wish I could make up this entire review. I wish I could be spouting bullshit right now. But unfortunately, this movie exists. So anyway, back on track. He chokes her again, which was pointless because she's dead. But then the camera stays there. Because originally it was a double shot with both of them in the scene. Then it cut to Asuka's face. And you see Shinji's hands kind of go down and choke her, Well, even after he's done with that, his hands kind of go up, but yet it still remains on Asuka's face. Just sitting there. Thank you, movie. I really needed to see that. But it stays there. And it keeps staying there. And then what the fuck happens? Her eyes move. That doesn't fucking happen. How is she still alive? She should be dead. And I'm not just talking about a scene inside of Shinji's brain. No, she should be dead. It was declared early on in the movie she died. And then she dies again. Technically, I don't fucking know. She should be dead. Bottom line, she should be dead. And yet her eyes still move. Her eyes just go from staring straight on, and they kind of move down a bit. And you can see that she's staring at Shinji. And she says, I think something along the lines of, "You're despicable." And after she says that line, the movie ends. The movie ends on a motherfucking cliffhanger. A cliffhanger in what is supposed to be a finale. This is supposed to be the end of it all. This is supposed to be the big finale that we haven't really been expecting, nor did we want, but it's a finale nonetheless. Why would you leave it on a motherfucking cliffhanger? That's my question. That is my personal question. If anybody at all, I'm genuinely asking this question. If anybody else can tell me why Asuka is still alive, I would love to know. And I want an actual reason too. I don't want any of this bullshit like, oh, it's magic. I'm asking. I'm being dead serious. I want a genuine explanation as to why Asuka is not dead. Okay? This movie, it's one of the worst films I've ever seen. Even as a non-fan, this movie is terrible. This is like the third worst film I've ever seen. Right up there with the likes of The Last Airbender and Dragon Ball Evolution. It is terrible. But at least there's a silver lining to all of this. Because I may not have liked the series. I don't hate it. This movie is fucking awful. Then, a few years down the road, they announced 3 Build movies. which are essentially just an animated quadrilogy of movies they're making. They've made 3 so far. And I was not looking forward to seeing them. And then I saw the first one and it was pretty good. Then I saw the second one and it was even better. New characters, new plot. Okay. And then I saw the third one. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I just gave a negative review to a movie that a lot of people seem to like. This has a... End of Evangelion has a 7.9 on IMDb. That is unfucking... That is... just... A 7.9. That is unbelievable. This movie does not deserve a 7.9. But anyway, back on topic. I saw the third film, which a lot of people didn't like. Even fans were like, I don't like this movie. And I was like, fuck. We got another End of Eva on our hands. Again, this was all before seeing anything in the movie. I didn't even see trailers. So, I just rented the movie for what it was. I borrowed it off of one of my friends. Watched it, and it's my favorite of the trilogy thus far. I haven't seen the fourth one yet, and it's going to come out pretty soon, I assume. Next year or two or so. The third one is my favorite film. It had the most character development, it had the most interesting plot, it had a different plot for starters, and it had actual fucking character development. The characters weren't the same as they were in the first and second one, but you know what? That's a good thing. Characters need to develop. And it's not like they're completely different, okay? They act differently, but they're still the same people on the inside, okay? I hear a lot of people didn't like how Misato's character ended up being, who Misato is essentially Shinji's guardian. He's legal guardian. I hear a lot of people didn't like her development. I honestly thought it was pretty good. She's the same person, again, but she's different, you know? It makes sense, given the circumstances, you know? So, honestly, go watch the Rebuild movies. They're much better. They're actual good. They're actually really good. Don't watch the End of Evangelion. It is one of the worst films I've ever seen. If you're a fan of the series and you have not seen the End of Eva, nor have you even heard anything about it, I'm pretty surprised, but honestly, don't watch it. If you are really hell-bent on seeing everything Evangelion-oriented, and that includes reading the manga, watching the series, and watching this fucking piece of shit, then I say go for it. Well, got that off my chest. Expect more good reviews of good movies down in the future. And I apologize for not making as many videos recently. I do apologize. Well, with that all being said, I am the Utter Chaos, and I rip apart movies for all they're worth. Signing out.